Is going on, everybody out there in podcast land and in YouTube universe and Twitch sphere? I don't know. How you all doing tonight? Welcome to another episode of your favorite podcast and now YouTube show, Cultivation Conversation. How y'all doing tonight? We have a special guest. Well, first, introduce the usuals. We got Monster. How are you tonight, Monster?
As always, fantastic.
Thanks. Perfect. NG3, how are you?
Spectacular.
Cool. And our special guest tonight, we have Scott from Microbe Life Hydro. Is that the full name?
Microbe Life Hydro is the brand
Microbe
name.
Life Hydro. Cool.
It's just Microbe Life Hydroponics.
Yep.
Cool. Now we'll get into it, but
on.
it's not just for hydroponics, of course, right?
It is not. Yeah, probably not the best way to brand it.
well, we can talk all about it, man.
Hindsight, yeah, it's originally developed for soil growth, but yeah.
Cool. I guess at some point though, I guess the hydroponics did take over the scene a little bit.
Yeah, we actually. So I guess there's some background there, right? So we were in commercial ag. I guess we have a different background there, right? So we were a different brand that sold to like citrus growers and potato farms and that kind of thing. That we built Microbe Life on top of. And at the time when we were launching the line, our route to market was through grow shops and hydro shops. So it was someone decided, hey, let's call it Microbe Life Hydroponics. But if you look at the labels, they all say, soil. In fact, we made sure to put it on every label. It says soil, aquaponics, hydroponics. It works in whatever you're growing in, and any environment, any media. But originally it was developed. The original formulations were for soil, and we built Microbe Life on top of those formulations. So.
Cool. Well, thank you for joining us tonight. That's very cool of you. We appreciate it a lot. And just got to ask, you got anything you're smoking on tonight? You growing anything other than
growing anything
behind you? Yeah.
Yeah, no, here in Florida, I can't legally grow anything. So no, I'm not growing anything. Not smoking anything tonight. Short of a cigar, I was smoking a little earlier.
Oh, nice.
Cool, man. Well, just a couple Jamaican tomatoes in the closet, right?
Just
allegedly.
I can neither confirm nor deny that.
No, we're not into.
He's gonna fit in just fine on this show.
Admitting any crimes. So what are you growing behind you there, Scott? Can you talk about that a little bit?
That's actually. So those are bonsai trees. I got into bonsai trees a while back, and I get a little obsessive. So I have those I'm growing indoors. Not always easy to do with bonsai, but I've got about 60 bonsai trees, most of them growing outside.
Amazing.
So those I keep in my office behind me, so that when I'm on Teams calls with people at work, I can sort of stare into the woods and get some calm. But all around me here, you can't see them in here, and obviously right now, but I've got LED light boxes all over the place with cactus and succulents, and inside and out, I've got about 200 different cactus and succulent plants and 60 bonsai. And outside my window there, I've got a guava tree and a group of bananas growing, and all kinds of tropical fruits and hot peppers and stuff going outside.
Man, that's badass. That's awesome.
Yeah. That's the benefits of being in a tropical climate, I guess, right? You can.
Yeah, everything I could never grow living in Pennsylvania, I planted when I got to Florida.
I don't blame you.
I feel
Bonsais themselves have always fascinated me. It's something that I want to learn, and I don't know why I haven't dive deeper into it really. Because I know there's a lot to it. It's not like something that you just do. You kind of have to learn how to do it. It's fascinating to me.
I'm still learning. Yeah, the biggest issue is, they have to be watered pretty much daily. So the big issue is making sure you don't give them too much water and you don't give them too little water. And then beyond that, it's, tree care, learning how to wire them and shape them so that they grow from as they grow, they look like trees. They don't look like,
Yeah. That's what's fascinating. It's like an art form, really.
It is definitely an art form.
Yep.
What's your oldest
Sure.
tree?
My oldest tree?
Mm-hmm.
Great question. That's a great question.
Yeah, I
You,
mean, I
you get
have
a gold
that
star,
one-
G3.
there goes that one is about 14 years old, but I didn't have it the whole time. Yeah.
Wow.
I have a couple trees that are probably up in that age range. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't grown them, since they were seeds. I bought them when they were a little older and been working them since then.
So cool.
Hey, it's like a lifetime pursuit, one of those types of things. So there's this, I'm sure you've heard of it, Scott, if you grew up around Pennsylvania, in Pennsylvania, it's called Longwood Gardens.
Sure,
They have these bonsai trees there they started training them back in like 1918. It's wild. Like over 100 years ago is when like the training started. So the plants themselves are like 120 years old. Just incredible. Incredible.
Yeah, I got to start planning for what to do with the trees when I'm dead. Yeah.
Is that something you put in a will when you're a
Yes, I have to
bonsai
put
tree
them in
grower?
will. Yeah. Yes, I'll have to put them in will. Yeah.
Well, it's gotta maybe start up like some kind of lawyer business based on bequeathing assets to trees. I don't think that's a field of law that's been explored much yet.
And probably not. It's like people that raise koi that can live, forever. They worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they, willed them down through the family.
That's interesting, man. Very cool. Very cool. So before we get too much into yourself and the company and everything, I want to just say hello to everyone in the chat. What's up, guys? I see a lot of familiar names out there. Thanks for joining us. I also want to talk about what I'm smoking on, of course. I got a little bit of organic jammy Dodgers, which I was excited to pull out of the dry tent very recently. I did a little bit of trim jail sentence over the course of the last few days. It was not pretty at all. I mean, you should see the mess down in my living room. We are pre-vacuum, post-trim pre-vacuum. It's like a hurricane went through.
Oh, yeah. Weed bomb. That's what my wife calls
it. Weed bomb is a really good way to put it. There's just debris everywhere. And we did 7 plants, okay? And it took... Now, I am happy to say that I had the support and the assistance of a product that I'm pretty happy with. And you know me, I'm as critical as can be about these types of things. I'm pretty darn happy with how the trim bag performed for me. And I got it from a buddy. We did a little trade. I sent him some beans. Actually, I'll just say what's up. Rooter Allister out there. He does another podcast called Crafting Cannabis. Y'all go check that out.
I just recorded an episode with them.
Oh, yeah?
Great.
Yeah, they had me on it right before I jumped on
Oh,
here.
shit. All right. Interesting. All right. Hey, man, you gotta go through me next time. All right. I'm the agent, the lawyer, the attorney, the representative. No, I'm just kidding. That's cool. That's cool, man. I can't wait to listen. A little bit, maybe a little bit. Not gonna lie, guys. Would have appreciated an invite. Just a little bit. But no, it's cool. Monster's got a lot more, practical grow knowledge than myself. I'm just just here for the show, man. What can I say?
You've done quite a couple of shows by yourself.
You guys hurt my feelings now. NGL. What can I say? All right, let me get back to it, though. I got a little bit of organic jammy Dodgers. I'm going to take a puff. This is the first one Actually, the one you saw me do 5 minutes ago was the first one. This is the second.
Okay. How's it taste?
Yeah, we got to get a full smoke report.
It's certainly jammy. A little dodgy, but definitely jammy.
Okay.
No, it's strawberry, like strawberry terps. Delicious, man. I'm a big fan. It comes through on the taste, so I'm happy about that. But anyway, the trim bag was nice. Did very well. Made what, I mean, 7 plants would not take an evening in any way, shape, or form before.
Glad you liked it, man. That's good that it worked out for you. I didn't have a great experience with it, but I think you didn't either. Your first time around, there's a learning curve with that. It's got to be the perfect dryness.
Agreed.
Yeah,
It has to be in the Goldilocks zone of dryness. Like you're almost gonna want to make it. You feel like it's almost too dry, and that's, as you've referred to it, the 24-hour sweat. You know, when you take it out of the tent, put it in the jar, and the moisture from inside the bud kind of comes back into the outside. This is before you do that, so the outside's very brittle, and that's what gives it the ability to kind of just, the friction from mesh bag just takes the leaves off. Just like if you were to use your hand and like knock some of the leaves off. It's not really.
Can't for the life of me. After months and months of caring for these girls and pouring my love and devotion into them to like beat the ever loving hell out of them, I just can't do it. I just can't do it. I will lovingly remove each of those extra fan leaves. I will not beat the hell out of my plants.
I feel ya. I'm just like, I'm at the point now where I'm harvesting too damn much to care about trimming in any real way, and I just want it to be done. And I'm like, should I just put the damn buds in the jars with the leaves on? Like, I'm almost there, you know? I don't care. The labor is not worth it for a home grower who just needs a head stash. You know, for just a tent pirate, I don't need to be sentencing myself to trim jail, you know? Yeah. So, I know it worked all right, man. I'm pretty happy with it. And,
can you recover the tricks that you lose, the trichomes?
Yeah, so that's kind of one of the cool things about it is when you do a couple rotations, you open up the bottom flap first, and all your shake and trichomes fall out. Now, I was just, dumping that into my trim bin, which I then sifted for trichomes and dry hash, stuff like that. And then, I'm just going to, I bag everything up after that. I'm just going to like make RSO out of it and put it in my Levo machine and stuff like that.
Cool.
So, yeah. What about you guys? Smoking anything good?
Same old as last time. Pure Michigan. Still smoking it. Enjoying it.
The meat weed.
The meat weed. Just a little meaty, a little bit.
It's good. It's enjoyable. It gets me high. It's got a nice flavor, especially after it, settling up a little bit. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's a good smoke. What about you, G3?
This is the last of the tester stuff that I pulled from the Mango Smile. So she just went into cure. So
I love the Mango Smile. It's
spectacular.
Very mangoey type of thing. So
yeah, she definitely has like a funkiness to her. Like it's almost like a dumpster full of mangoes being left in the sun for too long. And I know that from previous experience, I had Hulkberry from Barney's Farm give me a similar like note to it, and it came out of cure as like this beautiful wine flavor. So I'm pretty excited about it. I had to hide it in my house because the other people who spoke in my house kept stealing it. I'm like, it's not done yet. It has to go through cure. You have to stop. And they're like, I'm just gonna take one more. I'm like, stop it. So I had to hide it.
So I want to kind of dive right in here. Scott, Microbe Life. For those of you who don't know, I've mentioned it before. It's one of the Photosynthesis Plus is one of my favorite products. If you had to ask me, like, I use different additives and supplements in my grow, and if there's really one that I wouldn't live without, it's the Photo Plus. The stuff I notice a huge difference using it. The smell is very off-putting, which kind of turned me on because I'm like, anything that smells that bad is got to be good. the way somebody explained it to me was that's the sulfur inside, right? Which acts as like a natural preservative for the product.
It's so sort of. It feeds
Okay.
on sulfur in the bottle,
Oh, okay.
and so what you're smelling is hydrogen sulfide, which is a byproduct. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I don't know if I ever told this story or not on the show, but the way I got started on the product was in 2017 or 2018, maybe. I don't know. I get my years confused. It was at NECAN in Massachusetts, and it was towards the end of the show. I had stumbled upon your booth, and one of the guys was like, "Hey, man, I'm all out of samples. I'm really sorry. Um, I'll tell you what. If you send me an email, I will send you a bottle." I'm like, "That's rad." And then he goes, "Wait a minute, hold on." He came around the back and he handed me a liter of it. He's like, "I'm out of samples, but just take this. I want you to try it. Let me know what you think." And dude, it was the best business decision you guys ever made because I've bought a shitload of it since then. I love the product. It like I foliar feed with it. I use it in all stages of growth. And the thing I like about it is I can add it to a reservoir without things fouling up. You know, yeah, I'm a big fan. Just kind of want to hear you. You can give us the rundown on how the product works. What makes it different from other microbial products?
Yeah, it's a pretty unique product, and so and it'll actually, you mentioned it not fouling up the reservoir. Some of the bacteria in there will actually help clean your reservoir and any lines that you're feeding it through. But
See, I didn't know that.
it's
Awesome.
yeah, so
Almost like
it'll break
SLF
break down
100 type thing. I've heard
a
of
little
that
different. I
product
mean, it
doing
works
it.
great. It works great with SLF. They're paired up together a lot.
Nice. All
Um,
right.
but it's there are bacteria in that blend, right? Photo Plus has a lot of different strains of bacteria in it, and some of those bacteria will break down excess organics in the water, so prevents like things from sludge and stuff from building up in parts of the reservoir that might build up from things that drop in there, or any soil, anything gets in there. But it'll also when you get like slimy buildup in any lines in there, those are biofilms. So bacteria that are not as efficient at breaking down the things they feed on will keep building thicker and thicker biofilms to trap more food. But because the bacteria in Photo Plus is so efficient, it consumes all those excess proteins, all the kind of stuff that you want to get out of the water. It breaks all that stuff down. It does it so efficiently. It builds very fine, thin biofilms, and it'll clear out those lines. It'll get the buildup out because it takes away the food that's getting trapped by the other bacteria. Our bacteria tends to become dominant over other strains of bacteria that are less effective. So it'll actually clean it up. But I mean, the history of it actually, as a company, Ecological Labs, right? We started in water quality control, septic, wastewater, things like that, right? So bioremediation, lake and river restoration. It was all about water. The original products were all about water and water quality and breaking down waste and organics. And it kind of spread out from there. So it went from that to aquaculture, koi ponds, home aquarium. And later on, really, even though a lot of the bacteria that we use originate in soil, they were being used to clean water. And down the line, somebody was like, hey, this stuff works really great with plants. And before that, we weren't doing anything with ag. We were doing anything with plants. So people started dedicating time, have one lab in Florida.
Oh, you're breaking up a bit, Scott. You're breaking up a touch here. Is that just me who's
No, I can hear
experiencing
you
that? Or?
fine.
All right, yeah.
Hang on a second.
Yes, yep. Your
We
spotty
will,
connection.
okay. So this maybe hopefully is better.
Much better.
Yep, much better, much better.
Yeah, I was having some Wi-Fi issues, so I just dropped off of Wi-Fi and straight onto AT&T broadband.
Right.
But yeah, so it was all about water quality control, and then another company that worked in ag came to us and said, hey, we want to develop these products for use with plants and soil. And that's really where it started, right? Our lab went to work on that. We have our own fully staffed lab here with biologists, microbiologists, chemists, and work to develop products for soil and plants. But it all started with those water quality products, and those bacteria are still part of the consortium that we bottle for plants and soil. There's still bacteria in there that will clean, right, improve water quality. But building on top of that, more stuff for plants and to stimulate plant growth. So Photo Plus, we call it a consortium, right, or a consortia. It's a blend of a lot of different strains of bacteria. But what really sets it apart from the other products in the market is that pretty much everything out there, there's not many that try to say they're any different. They're all different types of spore forming bacteria, right? Buy dry powder, mix it, throw it in a bottle. They mix big vats and then they pour it down to smaller bottles. We're different, right? We're fermenting each container, each bottle, whether it's, like a little 4-ounce bottle or a 275-gallon tote. It's fermented in the container it ships in. And the reason we do that is because there are photosynthetic bacteria in there. That's why it looks the way it does. It has that purple color, and if it gets more light, it gets darker. If you keep it in a darker place, it fades. There are actually photosynthetics in there that are vegetative, which means they're always active. You can't put them to sleep. They won't go into a spore form, right? Spore form bacteria basically in a dormant state, it's like a pack of seeds. They'll just sit there until you put them in the system that you want them in, and they become active. The vegetative strains of bacteria are always active. And in order to do that, you have to feed them, and to maintain them in a bottle, they have to have a food source and go through a life cycle. And the reason nobody else really does that is because they can't stabilize them. So typically other companies that work with photosynthetics or vegetative strains of bacteria that have a very, very short shelf life, like 30 days, 60 days, maybe at the outside 90 days. Ecological Labs way back figured out the original formulator who developed the original water quality product, figured out how to keep them alive in a bottle for years. And part of that process is building an ecosystem in the bottle. So when it's fermented, I don't know if you've ever seen any of the pictures that get posted on Instagram of the grow room with the big containers of bacteria in it. All right, that's the Photo Plus being fermented. And what happens is we take the bottle, whatever size container, the filtered water goes in there, the grow media, the source of food for the bacteria. The cultures go in there, the bottle gets sealed, and it goes into this giant grow room. Right now it's LEDs. It didn't used to be. Now it's mostly all LED. It goes in there for about 6 days. And in that time, the photosynthetic bacteria becomes active, and it starts to grow, and it starts to fill the bottle. And as that happens, any air in the bottle, any oxygen in the bottle gets used up. The bottle goes into an anaerobic state, and the photosynthetic bacteria in an anaerobic environment can feed primarily on sulfur. So there's a lot of sulfur in the bottle as part of their food source. As they go through their life cycle, and they're feeding, they're dividing, they're leveling off, they're dying, they're going through the cycle over and over again. One of the byproducts is hydrogen sulfide that builds up in the bottle. And when you get a higher concentration of hydrogen sulfide, it works like a sedative, and it slows the life cycle down. Right? So you can't make them fully dormant, but we can slow down that life cycle. And they will keep going through that cycle over and over and over again in that bottle for years. And we say, we guarantee 2 years, 2.5 years shelf life, as long as you don't let it get too hot, which is, really hot, over 119 degrees for an extended period of time. That we guarantee it for at least 2 years. But I've had bottles, I mentioned before, everybody going on, right? I'm here in Florida. It's very hot here. I found in my garage a box of 6 gallons of Photo Plus that were in there for about 6 years. And my garage is basically an oven. It's at least 96 degrees in there on a daily basis. And I opened that box up and I thought, oh man, I forgot these were in here. I had picked them up from a customer, and they were still good. After sitting in that hot garage for 6 years in the dark, they were fine. I use them in my own garden, right? So it will maintain itself in that bottle as long as it's sealed for years and years. Once you break the seal, as long as you keep recapping the bottle and trapping in the gas every time you use it, the air gap gets bigger. So it takes a little longer for it to use up the the air that's in there and go anaerobic again and start to produce more hydrogen sulfide. So it starts to burn up the food source that's in there with it. But it's still, as long as you keep recapping it after each use, your average bottle will last about a year, before it starts to lose its efficacy. So
That's fascinating.
yeah, it's a
Quick
pretty neat
question.
process. Yeah.
How long does that take? Like from the time you bottle it to the time it's ready to ship?
We can, well, like if we were completely out, which generally never happens, right? Because that's always in production. It would take about 6 days, maybe 7, from the time they put it in the bottle till the time they pull it out. Maybe add an extra day on there to label it and ship it, but it's about a 6-day fermentation. Interestingly enough, we have the Omri version, the organic labeled version. Takes a little bit longer. That can take up to 10 days to ferment. It's a different food source. It's still sulfur based essentially, but it's not the same. That's really the difference, is in the food source to get that
me
Omri.
a little bit of, like, I always compare things to brewing. I work in the brewing industry, and it's like a bottle conditioned beer. It like ferments in the container that it's served in, basically. Re-ferments in a beer.
Or good kimchi. Yeah.
Nice. Interesting. Very interesting. It's super fascinating stuff, man. Like, microbes are really, I mean, they kind of seem like magic. In a lot of ways they are, but there's a lot of science behind it, of course. Neither of us on this side, none of us three are scientists.
Nope.
Is that your background? And like, how did you get into this, the world of microbes? Like, yeah, please.
Interestingly enough, it's really more of a hobby that got out of control. So in high school, I studied.
Yeah, right.
In high school, I studied biology, marine biology, biology, advanced biology, and marine biology. That was my last formal class in any kind of biology. But I kept fish, saltwater fish, freshwater fish, and reptiles. Right, I bred reptiles. So the biology and understanding biology was part of that. Really, just sort of came along with that. I went to college for engineering and electronics, right? But I worked in and out of the pet industry for years. In fact, I came to this job from the pet industry. I worked in the pet industry, went to college, actually worked in recording in movie studios, and then went back to the pet industry, and then went to work for a company that called Aquarium Pharmaceuticals that makes chemicals just for aquariums and ponds.
I'm familiar. I'm a big fish tank guy. I know their products.
So I worked for them for years, and one of the original founders of Ecological Labs, we used to see each other at koi shows and pet shows, and we got to know each other. And at some point, I actually moved to Florida from Pennsylvania, still working for Aquarium Pharmaceuticals, but it was just out of coincidence that I wound up living about 30 minutes drive from Ecological Labs. And when they were getting ready to launch their aquarium line, the owner called me, Michael, and he said, "Hey, we want you to come work for us." So I jumped over. At that time, we didn't have Microbe Life, so I was working for them in the aquarium and pond market, but saw an opportunity because I have an interest always especially in aquaponics and hydroponic growing of everything, right? Vegetables, everything. Saw an opportunity there and at the same time, so I was pushing in that direction, looking at what we already had and what we could do in agriculture and aquaculture and how to tie all that together. And at the same time, Brett, who I know Nick has spoken to, right, is one of the owner's sons, was working on the same thing separately with one of our independent reps who was already selling other products to the grow market. And we just happened to kind of tie into it at the same time, and it just sort of all came together. And Microbe Life was born. But this was really, I was just chasing a hobby, right? So went from working in a pet shop because I like it. I like fish and reptiles and dogs, right? To working for a manufacturer to here, just one thing led to another. But it's really, for me, the biology is really, since high school, it's all self-taught. I have a wall with books behind me there on the other wall, on plants and fish and reptiles and all kinds of stuff, focusing on the biology and the microbiology.
That's fascinating to me, actually,
Yeah.
because I'm like, water chemistry is kind of how I got into cannabis. Like, I cut my teeth learning how to grow with RDWC, and it came real easy to me because I already had a background like managing fish tanks, pH, and all that jazz.
Right.
So it was real easy to just kind of, for me, like, that was the easy transition. Like, all right, I'm gonna grow. It's gonna be with this because that's what makes sense to me, and it seemed easy to control. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's quite fascinating how the two worlds kind of collide
Yeah.
into
I
each
mean,
other and have a lot of similarities.
it's all about the foundations, right? Good water quality,
Hmm.
good grow media, whether it's soil or hydro media, whatever you're doing, good quality and the right biology, and everything works. Right?
And, environmental control, I have to imagine, is a big key in raising fish or any kind of growing of any type, is keeping them in a proper environment.
Right.
But
Yep.
no, it is super fascinating.
The
And
company Ecolab itself, is that the same as the company you're referring? The
No,
main.
so Eco Lab is something completely different from
Okay.
Ecological Labs. Although I won't lie, I have used their hotel discounts before.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I have some of their products like within a hand's reach probably that I use in my fish tank. So
Yeah, so
I've
you're
heard.
probably, if you're using Ecological Labs, if you're using Microbe Lift in your fish tank, that's us, right? Eco
yeah,
Lab is cleaning supplies, I think, for the most part. But
yeah, they have a pH
Ecological,
down. I think I
yeah.
use
So, but
in my tank.
Ecological Labs, right? So we have a couple of brands. Our brand for so there's Microbe Life, and then our brand for like fish tanks and koi ponds and backyard chicken coop odor control and that kind of stuff is Microbe Lift.
Okay,
In
I'm gonna
fact,
have
if
to
you
look
guys,
into that. I wasn't even aware that you guys had aquarium products. That's awesome.
yeah, under Microbe Lift, in fact, there's a product called Special Blend for aquariums that if the minute you open it, you'll recognize it because it's at its core, it's got some of the same strains of bacteria, so it's got the same smell and the same look as Photo Plus. It's
So is
just
that
missing some
something like a comparable product to like Cycle? You know that product, right, from
little
CChem?
different. Yeah, no, cycle, right? So cycle is, it's interesting you asked that, right? Cycle is really for the most part spore-based bacteria. Right? It comes
Okay.
back to the same thing, right? When Special Blend, like Photo Plus, has spore-based bacteria, but it also has the photosynthetic bacteria because in an aquarium, as I mentioned, that helps. So it's interesting. In an aquarium, you want to keep nitrate levels down, right? Too much nitrate, you get algae growth, right? If you don't have enough plants. Um, in the right environment, if you put that bacteria into the system, it will denitrify. It will gas off nitrogen. And in a plant system, it helps the plant fix the nitrogen and take in the nitrogen. So it's all about how you apply it, but it's really the same bacteria. They're just different blends of some of the same strains. There's a lot more in Photo Plus than there is in Special Blend. But it's funny that came up because last Friday I got a call. There's a guy that called up. He was worried because he has a hydroponic system. He had never heard of Microbe Life, but he picked up a bottle of the Special Blend in an aquarium shop to try and get some nitrate control in his system. And then when he read the box, it says not for use with fish or crustaceans intended for human consumption. And he thought, oh my God, what's going to happen to me if I smoke my plants now that I put this in there? And it turned into a conversation about, well, if you really like that, and he was like, I couldn't believe it. My plants look better than ever after I used a Special Blend. And I said, well, if that impressed you, try the Photo Plus because that'll take it to the next level. But,
Is
yeah, the
Photo
product.
Plus? I know we're kind of geeking out here. People are like, "What the fuck?" But like, would that be safe in a fish tank? Photo Plus?
Yeah, I mean, there's stuff in there you don't really need in a fish tank.
Okay.
But yeah, you could absolutely use it. Sure.
Right.
There's the Photo Plus has the mycorrhiza and stuff in it. There's stuff in there really specific for plants, but the part of it that comes from that water quality control would be great in your fish tank. Yeah.
Interesting.
It
Fascinating.
won't hurt
Actually.
anything.
Cool.
So my question is, how the hell do you R&D bacterial strains that perform a certain function that you want them to? I mean, as far as I know about bacteria, they can, I mean, they're kind of like the answer to all of like ecology's greatest problems. Like, I mean, you could probably find a strain of bacteria that's going to eat the Great Pacific Garbage Patch at some point. You know, it's just about developing it, cultivating it. Like, are you breeding that strain of bacteria? You working on that?
Like, plastic? I couldn't say for sure. I know that currently our lab is working with Moat Marine here in Sarasota, Florida, to help see if we can control red tide.
Interesting.
We're using bacteria, right? Because, basically take away the food source, you starve the algae. But you're not really R&Ding, right? You're identifying, right? Because we're not genetically modifying anything. So our lab, in our lab here in Florida, right, they have DNA sequencers and all kinds of equipment where they take bacteria from different areas, from ponds, from soil, whatever, and they run them through DNA sequencing and identify them and figure out the mode of action, how they actually, the MOA, what they're doing. If you put them in the soil, what do they do? What are they doing for the plant? That kind of thing. How do they do it? And then we have basically a bacteria bank, a library of bacteria, and they keep cultures that they can draw from, right? So they're constantly looking for new strains or new ways to combine strains. The trick in a lot of cases, like with Photo Plus, right? Everything in Photo Plus, it comes back to, like, there's people, I don't hear it as much anymore as I used to a few years back, but people used to say, well, don't buy bacteria in a bottle, right? It's in the environment. Just go out and dig up some soil from a forest or whatever, right?
IMO crowd and
right. And that's great, right? I'm not going to say don't do it, right? There's, people that are like, well, I brew tea. I brew my own teas. I don't need it. I don't need to buy bacteria in a bottle. But the difference is control, right? So we're not modifying anything, but we're making sure everything that we want to be in there is in there. So the lab can identify every strain that goes into the bottle. They can test every batch to make sure everything is there, that there's no contamination. A lot goes into making sure the lines don't get contaminated when they're running the bacteria, when they're filling those bottles, right? So, but they can take all the different strains that they choose for very specific purposes. What's this one doing for root development? What's this one doing for nutrient uptake? What's this one doing for improving carbon fixing or cycling of carbon, or
I'm glad you mentioned the carbon, because I believe that's one of the unique aspects of the product.
Yeah,
you can kind of go over that a little bit.
Yeah. So, but that's really what they do, is they identify each strain, and then they decide which ones they want to put together. Right. In fact, I guess I can, without getting into too much detail, we're working now. We had a meeting a week or so ago about our next generation of products that the lab is currently working on, which is sort of like, taking Photo Plus to the next level. Is there anything else we can add in there that will take it to another step? Make it even better, that kind of thing, right? So, but they identify the strains, they figure out what it is, and then the trick is to get them all to live in the same bottle together, and ferment them in the same container so that they work together. So if you brew a tea, even if you start with the same recipe and do it the same way every time, you may not get the same mix of bacteria, and you could end up with something you don't want, like E. coli or something like that, because you're environmentally open, right? You're not working in lab conditions. And if you go out into the forest and you dig up some soil, you may get some of those strains, but you won't get everything that's in there. And maintaining the photosynthetics in particular, which is the key to Photo Plus, long enough to get them in the system and make them work is not that easy, right? So you can go out and find all of these things in nature, but getting them all in the right place at the right time, and getting them all to work together is really the trick.
Yeah, without the anaerobic bacteria.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because, like I said, in the bottle, some of those bacteria will live in an anaerobic state, but they change jobs, right? So they're facultative anaerobes. So in an anaerobic environment, they do one thing, and when you put them into an aerobic environment, they switch jobs and they do a different thing. So it's really a unique thing. But yeah, the carbon, the carbon part of that CO2 is such an important part, right, of everything that goes in growing plants. And photosynthesis and using CO2 to create, carbohydrates in the plant is photosynthesis is really what it's all about. And what happens with Photo Plus is the photosynthetic bacteria. So if you've ever looked at a bottle and you notice it's purple, right, they react to light. The more light they get, the darker they get. In fact, if you've ever picked up a bottle that's been sitting on a shelf for a while, the side of the bottle that's been facing out to the light might actually have a purple biofilm on it because the bacteria move towards the light, right? So, and they build their biofilms there. And they're better at using the light, the available light for photosynthesis than a plant. Plants are limited to the spectrum they have access to for photosynthesis by the chlorophyll. The bacteria can use pretty much the full spectrum of light. So if you water it in or foliar spray it in, those bacteria get up into the leaf and they work with the chloroplast, and they do a couple of things. One, they actually help increase chlorophyll production, so you get a greener leaf. So your leaf's going to work better naturally, but the bacteria also will help trap and collect additional light and increase photosynthesis and increase carbon cycling. So you're converting more CO2 into carbohydrates, which is the plant sugars, and plants a lot, right? Pretty much I think most people know, right, how that works, right? Plants produce sugars that they put out through the roots into the soil or into the grow media to feed the bacteria and the other biology that actually processes the nutrient and transports it and feeds it back to the plant. So very simple version of photosynthesis.
Wow.
But a lot of the plant's energy goes into producing that, and the bacteria takes that work off the plant, right? So the bacteria helps produce a lot more of the sugar, supports all the biology. We're adding the biology, so the plant's own energy goes into its own growth and not supporting the biology that's feeding it. So that's one of the reasons.
Well, a lot of people, I'm sorry to interrupt. A lot of people have, like, you making light bulbs go off in my head here. Like, a lot of people out there have heard of mycorrhizal fungi as, a root. You add onto your roots, it grows with the roots, it colonizes, it helps the plant absorb nutrients from the medium. What a lot of people don't know, myself included, until you just spoke about it, was that there are types of bacteria that can actually assist the plant in photosynthesizing, like taking in light in different spectrums and different amounts. And I mean, that's the main function that drives a plant. You want to talk about plant food? Like, light is what feeds a plant. It's not the damn nutrients you give it. Light is, the main source of energy for the plant. And to hear that there's a type of bacteria that's going to, basically be like a mycorrhizal fungi for photons is incredible. That's kind of the way I'm understanding it, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, that's kind of where the name photosynthesis plus comes from, right? It's helping the plant increase photosynthesis. For those people that might be listening from California, that would be called plus C, because California for some reason wouldn't allow the word photosynthesis on the label.
Really?
It's California. But
all the weird
like,
I've bought bottles back in the day from eBay that say plus C, and I thought I got ripped off until I looked into it. I'm like, what the fuck?
No,
is this shit?
Even now, it's I guess we're 12 years since we launched the brand. There are still people that I run into that go, "Hey, I'm using photosynthesis plus but I'm trying to get some of this plus C," because they don't realize it's exactly the same thing. It's just a label. Unfortunately, that product, because of the way states are, it has to be registered state by state. So there are 5 or 6 labels for Photo Plus. There's the national label, which goes to most states, but there's an Oklahoma label. So there's Photo Plus OK. There's photosynthesis plus O for Oregon. There's an Illinois label. There's plus C in California. There's H for Hawaii. Just because each of those states had very specific label requirements. We could have probably
pain in the butt.
Yeah, we could have just, if we could have called them all probably just plus C or something, that didn't really say much. You put no information on the label, and we'd have one label, which, would make our distributors much happier. But because of our background right, is more scientific, and we try to put as much information as we can on the label. So the national label has the most information, and they just kind of get dumbed down through the other labels. So California can't say Photo Plus. We actually, you mentioned you use it as a foliar spray.
Yeah.
California also wouldn't let us. You can't put foliar directions on the label in California. So it's at some point we took it off all the labels. In fact, we have another product, if you haven't used it, called foliar spray and root dip.
No, I
in California, in California it's just called root dip because we had to take the word foliar spray off. But
maybe spit on my drink. That's so ridiculous.
So
Yeah, we actually just launched a new product that's just hitting the market called Terps Plus, which has really no information on the label. So it's the only way we could do it to get the thing. Right, it's the name and just a guaranteed analysis and directions. Basically, no, it doesn't really. We're hoping the name kind of explains it.
Yeah.
But,
I think you're golden there. Yeah, I think
in
you'll do very
order
well.
to get it registered, so we don't have 6 different labels for that product too. We had to go with the most base information.
Yeah.
Well, that product's gonna take off with all these new Athena growers out there. They need all the terps they can get, man. A little bit of assistance getting it. That's an inside joke. It's all love, all love. No, so
I saw a little controversy the other day. Somebody, I didn't answer it, but was asking my opinion about Athena not adding. Trying to remember what the topic was. Not adding sugar to the soil.
They try to keep it
you
like
probably
sterile.
don't know, but yeah, I use Athena and I don't follow like their program. Their program, they tell you don't need any additives, and I'm sure you probably could grow weed just fine that way. But I'm a big believer in microbes and the benefits of them, and especially Photo Plus. Now I use other microbe products. Like when I transplant, I like to use a little bit of Mycos. In early veg, I like a little bit of Recharge because it's not just microbes. There's a lot of stuff in there, some amino acids, molasses, kelp, humics, fulvics. But like I said, the one that I use throughout my whole grow is the Photo Plus. I won't foliar feed that in flower, but I definitely in veg. And I've noticed a huge difference.
Yeah. Photo is, that's our flagship product, and it does more than anything else in our line, and it does more than a lot of things out there because, right, as we mentioned, it increases chlorophyll production. It increases photosynthetic activity, so better CO2 to carbohydrate conversion. It fixes nitrogen at the foliar as well as the root, so you're actually pulling atmospheric nitrogen as a fertilizer. It helps break down and it helps make fertilizer, make nutrients more available to the plant, even whether it's organic or inorganic. It'll work. It's fine with salt-based nutrients, right? So makes all this stuff more available to the plant and aids in the nutrient uptake, right? So it's speeding all that process. So you get better uptake of phosphorus and potassium and nitrogen. It builds biofilms around the roots that help protect it and help hold water and nutrient in the root zone longer, so the plants have access to it, and it helps protect the roots from pathogens. And it builds biofilms throughout the grow media, so it helps aerate the media, whether it's soil or cocoa or whatever you're growing it. So it's really doing a lot. It's opening up the xylem and the phloem a little bit, so nutrient transport's better. So Photo's doing a lot within the plant, right, from top to bottom, as well as in the soil or your grow media. It's boosting all of the biology, right? Because especially the photosynthetics, they're kind of the first layer, right? The first trophic zone. All the other biology kind of builds on top of them. They support all the higher levels of biology above them. So it's doing a lot. We have, and I tell people all the time, you're fine, using, there's probably some overlap with other products, but they're not going to hurt each other. We do have some other products you might want to check out, but a lot of people, I talk to people all the time that use our product alongside a bunch of these other products. And, I so far, there's some that, there, like I said, there's some duplication in there, but you're not hurting anything. For us, it's
if I remember correctly, when you guys first developed the product, you didn't even have mycorrhizer in it. It was something that you added later on,
no,
right?
Our original commercial product for like commercial ag didn't and still doesn't have mycorrhiza. The mycorrhiza is in there in the Photo Plus formulation from the beginning. It's in fact, we put it in everything, right? So, I mean, we have vitamins, amino acids, not available in every state, unfortunately, but there's mycorrhiza in there. There's, it's just, it's a little added, benefit, value added, right? Throw it in there. But in our the one product that we don't have it in is Nourish, right? Which is just humic and fulvic from natural marine compost. It's a real nice organic humic and fulvic that we sell, real rich in organic carbon, right? But the other products like root dip, vegetable and fruit yield enhancer, those are blends of humic, fulvic, and bacteria and mycorrhiza for different stages. But the Photo Plus is sort of all the way through, and it's the one product that most people use consistently. And it's like you mentioned, you got that sample years back in Boston, and we did that before we had all of our registrations, and before we really were in distribution and out in the market. We gave away thousands of bottles, right? Those little 4-ounce bottles, because we knew that once people used it, right? I mean, I say 19 out of 20, it's probably higher than that. People that actually use those 4-ounce bottles.
He gave me a liter. That's what was awesome. He's like, I'm out of samples. Take a liter. I'm like, dude.
Yeah, we're pretty good about it. When people when people say, hey, I need something a little bigger. In most cases, as long as they're not abusing us, we'll say no problem, because we know they'll be back to buy more. Right? Very few people use it and don't see the value. And in the market, right, we're not real expensive, right? Because we come from commercial background. We don't price like a retail company, so we're not gouging, right? I think
I think a liter goes for like $25, $30.
Yeah, I think most people's, if you go out to a retailer or online or whatever, a gallon is probably typically between $65 and $70 for a gallon. And it goes a long way.
I buy
right?
it 5 gallons at a time for like a couple $100. So
yeah,
the more you buy, the cheaper it is.
I can ship you a 255 gallon total. What's that?
How often do I use it?
How often do you? How often do you use it? Is it like every time you feed? Is it once in a while? Is it?
You're not gonna like my answer, because I couldn't even tell you. I'm willy-nilly about that stuff. It's kind of like whenever I want to.
Whenever
it could be
your
like
heart
once a
tells
week.
you it's right.
It could be twice. Yeah, because like the thing is there's a point of saturation with any product that you can, I don't even measure it. I just like pour it out, because you can't really overdose on it. Like I have a rough idea
of additives.
Yeah, I am. That's how I am with all additives. Like you know what you're doing, like especially microbe additives. You can't really overdose on them. So
yeah,
it's funny. I don't measure it out. I just pour it in, and I don't know. I'd say on average at least twice a week.
Yeah, it's usually like, what is it, 1 ounce?
Yeah,
that's how most people use the products, and they're using EC to get their fertilizer dialed in and all that kind of stuff. But with microbes, even with the Terps Plus, which the Terps Plus is very concentrated. It's like 2 mLs for 5 gallons of water, and is the dosage we came out with. I would, but I know people are using it more, and it probably 1 ml per gallon is probably the ideal spot, but 1 to 2 mLs per 5. And I've already, seen people. It's only been out there for a month and a half. We gave out a bunch of samples, and people are just like, "Oh yeah, I'm using 200." I mean, they're just pouring the shit in there, right? So, we know that's how it works. I'll be honest with you, right? I say all the time, right? The dosage on the bottle for Photo Plus is 1 to 2 ounces for every 5 gallons of water once a week. Whether that's watered in or foliar or whatever it is, the spray, it's the same ratio, right? That's the way it's worked out. Doesn't matter how many plants we've worked it out based on water volume for for irrigating. And but if you ask 10 people that are listening, right, how they use it, assuming they're using it, you'll get 13 different answers, right? They people figure it out, right? Everybody has their own recipe. I don't pay for this stuff. I have gallons of it sitting outside. I use it on everything, and I'm the same as you. I don't measure it. And sometimes if I'm really lazy, I don't even mix it. I just pour it right into the plants, right? Right out of the bottle. And I do it irregularly, right? So some things like I'm growing, hot peppers and cucumbers and tomatoes and all kinds of tropical fruits and stuff out there. And I use it when I use it. Sometimes I use it, once a week. My bonsai will get it, especially the indoor ones. They need that extra boost to use the light, the LED grow lights over them, right? So they get it a little more often, but the stuff outside might be every couple of weeks, or it might be, it's like whenever I go, oh yeah, I didn't do it this weekend. And
Yeah,
it
like
really,
my
the goal
nutrients,
is
I weigh out with a scale, like grams per gallon. Like not
right.
even like, and I get it down to like the 10th. It's right there. I mix it up, add it in, and then when it comes time for the microbes, whether it be Photo Plus or whatever I'm using, it's just okay. That's enough. That's
Yeah.
So
it's a
it sounds
willy-nilly
to me
approach.
like, that's kind of the hallmark of like an organic additive, like it's not going to burn. It's all right to just be kind of willy-nilly with. Why are some of your products listed organic and others aren't? To me, it sounds like it's mostly just organic.
Yeah, there's sort of a difference. Well, some of the products, right? So of our core products, what we consider our core, right, which is the Nourish, which is just humic and fulvic, rare earth, right? I mentioned that, right? That's certified as organic, right? Because it's from an organic, natural compost source. The Photo is considered all natural, but it's not certified organic unless you buy the OMRI certified version. And we had to do very specific things to meet that standard. And so there's no mycorrhiza for whatever reason in the organic one. That label just lists one strain of bacteria. We had to change the food source, the sulfur source. So you have to do very specific things to get an OMRI certification. We did it because there was enough demand for it, but it's more expensive, right? It's like 15% more expensive.
We're
So
not
for
talking
people,
about like harsh chemicals or any kind of like
no,
like
yeah. So there's a difference. A lot of people say I'm growing organically, and really what they're doing is growing naturally, right? There's a little difference there.
Mhm.
If you're certified organic and everything has to be OMRI, that's a whole different thing. In terms of what you use. But
Understood.
some of it just comes down to certification. So like with root
Yeah,
tip and the yield enhancer, we just didn't chase that organic certification, and there's stuff in there that's natural, but it's not considered organic certified,
I
right?
gotcha.
So some of it's just about sourcing some
Hey,
materials that we use that aren't bacterial. And then we do have some products that are definitely not. We're known for that all natural or organic product, but we do have chemicals in the line, right? We have pH adjusters, we have dechlorinators. The vitamins, amino acids is a mix of natural and synthetics. Um, the all-in-one, which is like a micronutrient blend, is definitely not organic, and the Terps Plus is not organic. That's chemical, right? So
gotcha.
some things are, some things aren't. But yeah, I mean, it's really a matter of scale, I guess, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Natural
yeah.
versus
I understand.
organic or chemical. Yeah, so chemical,
Yeah.
natural, organic.
It's kind of a certification racket when it all comes down to it. I mean, a lot of stuff, like you said, is natural. There's nothing inorganic about it. It's just not certified. As an organic grower myself, I fully understand that. It's a bit of a racket. It's
Your
well,
legal team
a
must be.
natural grower, yeah. I'm sure I wouldn't pass OMRI certification over here. Like I try to keep it as natural as you
It's a
said, but
it's
you
a whole
know,
different level. Right? I mean, there's a
yeah,
lot of guys I know that grow some really good quality, product. Um, they're chemical growers, right? They're using salt-based nutrients, because in the retail space, it really comes down to dollars, right? You got to be able to grow product that's quality and sell it and still not lose your shirt, which has been a tough thing to do this year, right? So, but they're not organic by any stretch. Right? They're
someone's
using salt.
asking in the chat, is the Premium Plus natural or chemical?
The Premium Plus. Oh, the
Yeah,
Photo Plus
I
is,
guess they mean the Photo Plus. Yeah.
yeah. So the Photo Plus is all natural. The difference is, um, if you want true organic certified, there is a special OMRI certified version that's different. But the Premium Photo Plus, they're all called Premium, by the way. It was part of the branding. But the Photo Plus, in any form, whether it's the Photo Plus, the Plus C, they're all natural. But if you need that organic stamp, that OMRI stamp, there is an OMRI certified version.
But for all intents and purposes, like if you're not really concerned about a stamp, there's like nothing not natural about the product. That's
Nothing not natural. It's all
Cool.
it's all natural ingredients. Yeah.
Cool, man. I love to hear it. Now we got another question. Do you recommend spraying? So do you recommend spraying in flower? And like I guess my part of the question is, if you don't recommend spraying in flower and you were spraying to apply this product all through the plant's life, and then like you stop and you suddenly start doing it as a root drench, does that affect the like mechanism of action at all? Does it do anything?
No, it's interesting. If you do foliar spraying with it, especially early on, you see like an almost immediate response from the plant, right? You spray it on the plant, and you can see it within an hour. We've had people pick up a sample from us at a show, go home, use it, and come back and say, "Oh my God, in the last hour, my plants are reaching for the light," right? And you see that reaction a little quicker as a foliar. But if you do it as a root drench, you'll still see it. It just might be the next day, right? So it's going to work its way through the system, and some of those bacteria will go from root to leaf or leaf to root within 45 minutes. I mean, they're there. They move very quickly, right? So especially the photosynthetics, because they're already active in the bottle. If you took a drop out of the bottle and put it under a microscope, you'll see activity immediately. You won't see that with other products. And that activity is the photosynthetic bacteria, because they're vegetative and they're already active in the bottle. So they go to work very quickly. So you'll see that response quicker with foliar, but in my opinion, through the course of the life cycle of the plant, the growth cycle, at the end, it's going to come out the same. I don't see any additional benefit to it. There are some, we try not to talk about disease control because we don't ever want to be considered a pesticide. But there are some disease control benefits to using it as a foliar, with things like powdery mildew and some other things. If you spray it on the plant, you get a little added benefit from that, right? In terms of disease control, we know it helps prevent certain diseases of the roots, root rot, things like that. It helps with that. We don't write that down anywhere.
It'll colonize with good bacteria what would otherwise be, an empty space. And as another podcast says, nature abhors a vacuum, they say, and something will find a way there.
In the long run, though, I don't see any real advantage to using it one way or the other. And as to using it in flower, I don't see any reason not to. I think it comes down to personal preference. Like, there's a lot of guys out, you talk to people in Oregon, and they, foliar spray is a bad word in any time. They don't want to spray anything on their plants. Don't raise the humidity, right? So, I don't think there's any issue with it. I think it's a matter of how people like to grow. I don't think with Photo Plus in particular, I don't think you could go wrong either way. As long as you're using it, I think whether you're and if you start out with foliar and you switch to drench, you'll be fine. It'll still work. You'll still get the full benefit all the way through. So it doesn't matter in my opinion, right? It doesn't matter how you apply it. It'll get there. I'm going to back up for a second. We jumped off the topic we were talking about. You mentioned the Athena and root sterilized system, and I've been hearing that a lot lately. People going to sterile systems, which really, it's just not going to work, right? So you need the biology, right? So if you're constantly sterilizing your roots and your system, you're killing all the biology. The plant needs to live. It'd be like you taking antibiotics on a daily basis and wondering why you don't feel well because you're not getting all the nutrient because you don't have the bacteria living in your body anymore. You need that bacteria. And if you're using the right bacteria, you shouldn't really have to be concerned about cleaning your roots like that all the time. I'm not going to say don't do it, right? I mean, there's a lot of products out there for it, but you should always add more bacteria in. But the question that was interesting, but you can't really grow in a sterile system. There was something, I don't know if I read it or I was talking to someone. I think I was talking to someone that was saying that they have a lot of people that have been talking, going to grow a sterile system. 10 years ago, that's all I heard, and it disappeared for a while. Now it seems to be coming back. That people, I think it was one of my distributors was saying they were talking to growers that were saying, oh yeah, I went to a sterile system, but for some reason my terps are down and my plant, it doesn't taste as good. I'm not going to, right. I don't understand.
Gee, I wonder why.
So you need the right biology. So, so if you want to run something to clean your roots, add the bacteria back in. But the thread that I saw the other day was talking about adding sugars to the soil or molasses, and I guess the Athena side. And somebody asked my opinion, and I didn't answer. But
post,
in my opinion, you don't need it. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. Like if you want to use molasses, right. It's not going to hurt, right? As long as you're putting in the bacteria you want to be there. The bacteria is going to grow to the food source, right? So if you're adding a lot of sugars into the soil, you'll get more bacteria, but it's not like it's going to kill the plant. It'll just, when you stop adding the extra sugar, the extra bacteria will die off. People ask all the time, but this is why I tied back to it. People will ask me all the time, should I add molasses with photo? You don't need to. It's not going to hurt it if you do. I don't think it's necessary. But if you want to, go ahead, right? It's for us, it's all about not spending money you don't have to spend, right? To grow your plants.
Yeah.
And really, you don't need it, but with some you do, right? Like if you're not using our product, it might be beneficial to add the molasses or some kind of sugar right to the soil to give that bacteria an initial boost. There's really a happy medium there. I don't think it's one or the other. You need the bacteria. That's the only thing I'll say, right? You're not going to get the same type of growth and results if you don't have the right biology to support your plant and your soil biology or your grow media biology. But I think
this information, all flies. It's flying directly counter to the information I received from like Athena Nutrient Corporation. It's amazing. Apparently, according to them, all you need to do is trust the program and grow with their nutrients, and you don't need to add any microbes whatsoever. In fact, it's counterproductive because you can't crop steer microbes. Amazing.
Like I said before, and Scott kind of hit on that too. Like there is no right or wrong answer to that. There is some truth to putting sugars in the root zone. Could be a bad thing. But it's pretty much not going to happen with anybody growing, especially if you are using microbes. Now, I think if you were using Athena and not using a microbe product, and then you added sugar to your root zone, I think that there could be a potential there for something to arise.
Could be
because you don't have any.
If there's
you don't have any beneficials there. Yeah, but
that's why I tied it back to if you have the right bacteria in there, it's not a problem.
Exactly. So it just boils down to it being like bullshit, And I'm almost ashamed to. And I use their product and believe in it, like the product itself. I love it, but it kind of pisses me off when I see that shit. It's like, dude, just your product works great. There's no need to tell people they're doing things wrong by putting sugars into the root zone. Or if you're going to do it, at least explain like, hey, putting sugars into the root zone on the program wouldn't be a good idea because you don't have any microbes. Like that, you know what I mean? Like that makes a little bit more sense to me. And even that I have a hard time chewing on. So,
I think if you're selling a specific program and you want people to, I guess it's a matter of like with our stuff, we're not a fertilizer company. We're not a nutrient company, right? And we say all the time, our products are designed to work with any nutrient program, right? Whatever you're doing, whatever you're using, our products, right? Especially the photo, the root tip, the yield enhancer, they're going to make those products work better. And there are other companies out there in the world of nutrients, whether it's organic or inorganic, that will actually recommend photo along with their line, and we have no affiliation with them, just because they know it makes it work better, right? So here's our nutrient, but if you really want it to work best, add this to it, right? Even in some cases, I won't mention any names, they may have their own biological product and they still recommend ours just because they know it's going to unlock those nutrients. And we try to say, no, use these, right? You mentioned SLF before, and we know Newton and SLF and Nectar and Photo Plus and Grow Switch and some of these other products out there. We all know each other, right? Mammoth. We all know each other. We know a lot of people are using our products together. We do our best not to step on each other, because there's, I may say, oh, I don't really think you need that, but it's not hurting anything, right? If you like the results, use it. There's a lot of ways to get to many paths to get to the end.
The truth.
Yeah.
I like to kind of refer to it as the great battle of the microbes. You add them all, you see which one becomes the dominant strain, and usually it's gonna help.
Yeah,
Just add them
we're
all.
pretty confident.
They all work
We're
together.
pretty confident ours will outcompete pretty much anything out there, right? But
Nice.
and there's some out there that I'm not going to say they're no good, but they're not special, right? I mean, because you can, like, you could probably go on eBay and buy everything you need to make your own bacterial spore blend in your garage, and it may be fine, right? It may do what you need it to do. It's not going to do everything, like that photo can do, but I guess it depends on what you're really looking for in the end. If you're looking for good or great, all right? So, and there are some products out there that may not be worth what they're charging, or may not be worth doing everything they say they're doing. They're not hurting anything except your wallet in some cases, right? So, there's a lot of products out there. For us, it's the fact that we're right. This is what we do. We're a biotech company. Bacteria is our business. We have a lab that works very hard to make sure the right stuff's in that bottle every time it leaves our facility. And there's companies out there that are mixing stuff in their garage. But it's we all know each other in this business, right? And I personally, I don't know about when we're not in the same room. I hope they do the same thing. We don't really bash each other, right? We know there's a place for certain products, and we know some products work better, and some people are selling products they know don't work as well. But there's, like I said, there's a lot of ways to get to the finish line.
It sounds like you wanna say it, Scott. Not gonna lie. I mean, if you no, I'm just playing. You don't need but if you wanted to, this is definitely a place where you are free to bash any company you want. We're not really affiliated with anyone. This is a safe space, 100%, man. We don't care at all. I want your true opinion.
I look at what some products cost in the market, and I don't understand it. But that for me is the issue, right?
I'll do it for you. I know it's exactly what you're talking about.
We talking fish shit?
I feel the same exact way. No, fish shit's all right. He's talking about Mammoth P. Their prices are ridiculous. It's a good product. It works, but and look, I'm actually like close.
That's
I know
the reason I never tried it.
He's a good dude, but Jesus Christ, the product's it's expensive. It's just
I mean, I know Colin. I
don't think the juice is worth the squeeze.
Yeah, I've been out to their place.
Colin, I love you, brother.
I don't understand the price of some products. I mean, there's some others out there. I've seen some ridiculous, like hundreds and hundreds of dollars for a gallon of product, and I look at it and I'm like, this literally you could mix in your bathtub. Not Mammoth, different product. Mammoth actually has a process. It's very specific, but there are some products out there that it's, to me, it's price gouging. Yeah, but
well, I appreciate the honesty, man. Like, that's for real. That's what the show's all about. We're just we're trying to grow the best for like the least amount of money, and everyone's trying to save a buck or two on unnecessary inputs.
Yeah, I mean, once you guys handed me a bottle, not you specifically, but representatives from your company handed me a bottle, and then I looked and seen that it's like reasonably priced. Like it's and I'm not a scientist, but I knew that it was different from other products based on the research that I've done. and that's what
And
makes it, fascinating to me. I love the product. Like I said, I won't grow without it. I
Now,
literally buy. I'll take a picture tomorrow. I buy it 5 gallons at a time. That's how much I
yeah.
like the product.
Well, I'm even as a, an organic, or I would say natural grower now. But like I'm even gonna get the non, OMRI listed one. I don't care. I could just, I don't need a certification to, if it's all natural, it's all natural, man.
Plus, in the all natural versus the organic, right? The OMRI label, there is mycorrhiza in the standard label versus the OMRI label doesn't. The OMRI label version doesn't have it, so you're getting a little bit extra in the OMRI one costs more, but you're getting actually a little bit more
If you
in
can,
the.
man,
So Scott, once you have your bacteria and your microbes and everything in there, is there anything additional you can pay attention to or add to keep them as happy as possible? Or is it kind of just like you wish them well in their time in their cold, savage world?
Damn, another great
Well,
question.
you could add molasses to the soil. No, we just circle back on something. No, you don't really need to. I mean, that in some cases,
no. Trust the program. Trust the
right?
program.
In some cases, feeding them a carbon source, right? But the plant really takes care of that and supports its biology, the soil biology. So
Is there a certain
if
level
you
of
have this,
moisture or anything?
um, no, well, yeah, I mean, there's ideal things like certain levels of pH Photo Plus actually in particular can work in a broad range of pH. So you can put that stuff in seawater and it would be fine, right? So broad range of temperature, pH. That's why it works in any grow media, any conditions. It really works. It's got a very broad range of pH it works in, and it can handle. It can freeze. It'll be fine. It can handle high temperatures up to like 119 degrees. Over that for an extended period of time, it'll start to die off. So for our bacteria in particular, there's really nothing else you need to do, right? You don't need a wetting agent. You don't need to give the additional sugar. It will find what it needs in the environment. And because it's not just a soil biology, it's working in the plant as well. It helps the plant support what's outside the root in the grow media. So for ours in particular, no, there's really nothing you need to do to keep them happy. You will get, depending on different things, you might get some washout or die off of certain strains of bacteria, which is why, right, there are people that say, well, why when bacteria reproduce themselves, right? So how come I don't have to just use it once and then I'm good for the whole growth cycle? And you might be able to get away with that, right? So, but you are going to, over time, depending on what you do and other things, you're going to lose certain strains of bacteria. There's a lot of strains going in that bottle doing a lot of different jobs. And you might lose some, they might run out of food, or you might put something in that kills a strain, or so really the reason to use it through the growth cycle um, is just to keep kind of refreshing it, right? To make sure you
Oh,
always have the bacteria in the system. But there's nothing really in particular with ours that you really need to do to keep them happy.
now you had
If you're,
mentioned one thing to me that kind of it made me perk up. I wasn't aware of its capabilities. Cleaning biofilm from lines, right?
reduces it.
How if you okay? Well, how confident are you that that would keep my lines clean? Because
I'm pretty.
I use a cleanse product from Athena every now and then, like maybe once or twice a cycle, and then I will
Yeah.
replenish the microbes. So I'm just curious if it's something I could cut out. Um, if
I'm pretty confident it will. In fact, one of the questions that we get asked a lot is, can you run this, through an irrigation system, right? Is it going to clog my line? And no, it won't. It will help clear the lines. I'm
well,
pretty
I knew
confident in that.
that. I knew it wouldn't clog.
Yeah, and I'm pretty confident it'll help clear them. I mean, if your
Okay.
lines are clogged now, you might want to
Yeah.
flush them the first once and then run it. But I'm pretty confident it'll help clear them, and help keep them clear.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you weren't aware, I use the auto pots. I don't know if you're familiar with them. It's
Yeah.
a bottom feed. That's my style of growing. I really love them, and the Photo Plus has worked great for me. I dump it right in my reservoir. For those of you who know the way I grow, I have a secondary reservoir that I connect to the auto pots that I use for organics. The only micro product that I will add directly to my reservoir is the Photo Plus. I've mentioned that before on the show. I don't worry about it because it hasn't seemed to ever foul up my reservoir. When I look after it's done, it's crystal clean, everything's perfect. So it makes sense now that I'm saying it out loud. Like, my reservoir is clean afterwards. Why wouldn't my lines be? So yeah, that's great. That's something I think I can cut out of my regimen is the
you
clean.
know, the biology is eating the crud in the reservoir. That's awesome. Isn't that, you mentioned, Scott, like you got into this whole thing through like you know, water. Did you say you were in water treatment at some point? Like you did wastewater management?
The company started in water treatment and wastewater management.
Okay.
The original Microbe Lift product was a septic product.
Yeah, that's what I understand. That's how they clean city water, is they use specific microbes, and they have to, it's like a big aerating tank that they have down like in every community, you know, they have to bubble the shit out of that water to clean it.
And we supply product for that. We still have product for, I mean, if you search up the Microbe Lift brand, you'll find, you know, septic and stuff for septic tanks and for farm ponds and koi ponds and aquariums. And I mentioned we have stuff that controls odor and breaks down waste in chicken coops, and stuff for, you know, pet stain and odor removers that are all biological based. And it all really comes from the fact that we do that, you know, commercially as well. So we have products to clean up like waste pits on dairy farms and hog farms, and for methane control and all kinds of stuff going on.
It's like microbes. Microbes are magic. I'm sorry, and it's like, when is the desalinating microbe coming along? You know, that can take ocean water and turn it into palatable drinking water. It seems like not too far of a stretch now that I'm hearing you talk.
I don't know if I'd bet on that one, but
no, I mean, why? Honestly, if microbes can eat the human waste from water and turn it clean, why wouldn't it be able to work on salt? Like, I'm just genuinely curious.
Difference between breaking down minerals and breaking down organics, organic material. You could, not that I'm recommending this, but you could probably stuff a body in a drum with Photo Plus and seal it up, and in 6 months there won't be a body. But it's
that's some Breaking Bad shit right there.
Yeah, I was just thinking this. That's it.
I'm not saying you should try that, but you know,
we got Heisenberg over here from Microbe Plus.
But yeah, and I mean, our company, one of our company lines is solving environmental problems naturally. So
wow, I love it.
It's all about using the bacteria for all that. And like I said, we're working with Moat Marine on trying to control red tide, which is a big problem down here in Florida. We had the if you've ever seen on the news, they talk about the algae in the canals in Cape Coral, which is where our company is based. And they were trying to figure out all these ways, because we're getting this toxic green algae that's building up in the canals, which also has to do with feeding out into the water, and you know, and contributing to red tide. And they've been using all kinds of chemicals and equipment and stuff to try and clean that out. And we were able to do it biologically. You know, I mean, there's a lot of red tape involved, so we're still not doing it. But they proved we could do it, right? That we could use bacteria for that to clean up that mess.
You should always be wary of a man who keeps a microbe farm, is what you're telling me. Yes.
You never know.
Never know. It's like, there's a movie, it's called Snatch. Old movie, Brad Pitt in it. It's a good movie. And he's like, there's a character called Bricktop, and he keeps a pig farm. And that's what he does, man. He feeds the bodies to the pigs. But if microbes work, hey, that sounds a lot easier, man. A lot easier.
Yeah.
No, that's that's a funny sidetrack, but you know, we obviously don't recommend using your microbe products for any such activity. We'll bring it back to the growing. Cool. For a little, we're getting a little heads up at the time. Cool. Appreciate it. Couple questions before we get wrapped up here, Scott. Now, how would you recommend using this full cycle? Like, you know, specifically, we're talking about the Photo Plus and the Nourish. Is that full cycle? Good to go?
Yeah, there's there's no reason not to. And originally we did. Most people, stop at flush. But it's not gonna hurt anything, right? Especially with the photo, might actually help clean out some of that excess stuff you're trying to flush out of the system, right? You're not gonna fail a test if you're testing your end product if you use it all the way through. But most people stop at flush. The new product, the Terps Plus, is really intended to be used all the way through to from week 1 all the way through to harvest.
I got to get my hands on some of that.
Yeah, if you go to our website, there's a way to sign up you can request a free sample, and we'll send out
Says
Microbe
every Athena grower out there is going to want themselves a bottle of Terps Plus. I guarantee it.
Yeah,
You couldn't have released that product at a better time, man. That's
You fucking prick.
Just I play. That's all I can do. But no, we seriously do appreciate you. Are a wealth of knowledge, Scott. And I could pick your brain for hours about microbes, man. You answered a lot of my my weird questions too. Very, just off the cuff. You handled it all well. I love it. You're my kind of people, dude.
And for you guys, for anybody that's listening or watching, we're pretty easy to get a hold of, right? So if you do have questions, you can reach out to us either through the website. I mean, it's probably the easiest way, or through Instagram. Brett's always on Instagram. We get a lot of questions that way. But through the website, through Instagram, you can send us questions. We're a lot of times it's me that's going to end up answering it anyway. But we're pretty easy to get a hold of. Most cases, if you need me to, I'll call you. In most cases, and I won't say every time.
Man, gotta love that.
Yeah, we're around. We're not we sell globally, but really we're not a lot of people. We're not in the microbe life area. There's only 3 of us really inside, and then we have some reps out there in Michigan and up and down the West Coast. But
nice. How can people find you on Instagram, and what is the
Microbe Life Hydro on Instagram? Or you can find me, right? Scott Berke, Berke, B as in boy, ERKE, on Instagram. It's just my name. You can find me on Facebook under my name, although I rarely use that anymore. But yeah, I mean, on Instagram, Microbe Life Hydro, we post a lot of stuff there, and it's easy to reach out. Brett, keeps a close watch on that and stays in touch with people. And then, depending on what they need, he'll send it to me or to Duffy, and who's in our office he's also up in New York.
Cool. And it's microbelifehydro.com for any orders.
Microbelifehydro.com. Instagram is microbelifehydro. Yeah, but everything else, I mean, we can be reached through any of those. Yeah.
Awesome. It's been awesome. It's been a really, really cool, interesting, knowledge-filled episode, I gotta say, man. So, again, we want to thank you for coming on.
I appreciate the opportunity. It's been fun.
Yeah, man.
Cool.
It was really cool to get a better insight into a product that I use that I love so much, and hopefully people learn from this. And I often say that most micro products are very similar, and Photos Plus is definitely stands out from the rest. So
yeah,
thanks for the knowledge, man.
I was going to say that.
This a lot. I really enjoyed this a lot.
For sure. And please, guys out there, support us if you can. We're kind of like we're a organic or natural podcast here. We're just, it's a passion project. We love doing this and hanging out with you guys. If you have the means, please support us financially. Find us on Patreon. Patreon members just got a package in the mail today. Just saying, it's worth signing up for. Free beans, and we do plan on doing a lot more of that stuff. So, again, yeah, it's worth signing up for. A good little community we got going on Discord now, so join us over there. And yeah, even if you can't do that, just keep listening, tell a friend, leave a review. We appreciate everything, guys. We love you all.
The support is awesome. Another thing you can do, if you're going to do any shopping on Amazon, head over to our website, click on the products we use, click on any one of those links, even if it's not something you want to buy. Continue on with your Amazon purchase. You get a little kick of that, just something to help the show. And of course, check out the products we use. It's all products we use, not shit we're trying to shill to you. So check it out. And if you have any questions, feel free to hit us up. That's what we're here for. We love you all.
Amen. Well said. And final thought, don't get caught.
Don't get caught.
Talk to you later, guys. Thanks again, Scott.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Bye.